Hello there, Peter Gibson. I'm the head of product and marketing at CTS. So I see some friendly faces and I see some new ones in the audience. It's great to see you today. Great to be with you. So just a little bit of background on Comcast Technology Solutions and who we are. We're a division of Comcast, and our focus is on taking technology and innovation from Comcast and making that commercially available. So that's all the investments that we make across our business, all the IP, and how we look at our media and our entertainment business. We likewise look to make that available in the marketplace. We're a global company. We support content providers, advertisers, agencies, broadcasters, really across the entire spectrum. We've got a business where we look to distribute content and really where the eyeballs are. It's been in our DNA as a media company, looking at all the different workflows from your existing streaming footprint across all your distribution rights and where that content flows from an ecosystem of post-production right up until the app experience itself. We support a variety of content, advertising, everything on the live, linear side to on-demand and catch-up. And we've been in the business for over 25 years. Just a little bit of level set as well, just the kind of 40,000-foot view on who we are and where we sit in the corporate landscape of Comcast, NBC Universal. Really, there's three primary entities that make up Comcast, NBC Universal. It's Sky, Comcast, and NBC. And we really underpin them from a technology standpoint of taking like I said, all the investments that we're making across those businesses and where it makes sense, making it commercially available. We have our panel topic this afternoon on sports. When we think about some of the leagues that we support within Comcast Technology Solutions, it's really all the major leagues across global major leagues that we support for our customers, either directly or through the rights that they have with their business. So we think about sports at scale. We think about sports traditionally what we do within our business. So I'm going to talk and frame up a little bit on some of the things that we're seeing and what does this landscape look like in the narrative of the streaming wars are over. What does the post-streaming rush look like? Really, it's the economics of your business are playing out. And there's two kind of plays there. How do you monetize your content? We're looking at fast models, which we're going to talk about today, the real shift in advertising and how to take advantage of that, distribution rights for your content, but also the economics of how you're producing your content in your workflows. Those are really the common themes that we're seeing play out in the marketplace, and we're going to talk about at length this afternoon. But there's really some levers there within that we're going to talk about today, and there's really three areas that we see playing out in the marketplace. One is just this concept of unlocking hybrid monetization. So having the ability to drive and move quickly and with the agility of how your business is evolving to take advantage of AVOD, to take advantage of FAST, to have that into your mixed models and how you target your consumers. Focusing on the consumer experience itself, so personalization, how you the churn behaviors, churn predictors of your consumers, and how you get in front of that, how you personalize the content from a discovery standpoint, from an advertising standpoint, how you target personalized advertising, contextual advertising, and how to use all the data that is available to you to understand that consumer experience. And then the third theme that we're seeing play out in monetization is really bundling. Bundling over the last few years now has represented a significant increase in monetization in your commercial business. And really the complexities there of how do you manage the policy enforcement around bundling, around your content, around all these different models. So these are some of the things that we're seeing our customers being challenged with, is how do they facilitate bundling into existing mobile carriers, into other streaming platforms and the rights that go along with that content. The other theme that we're seeing play out is content engagement. So we often say to many of our customers is focus on the consumer and the content versus all the plumbing that gets to that point. So how do you differentiate between all the data that's available that we see from an AI standpoint, video AI, for contextual advertising, for discovery, for recommendations? How do you create that experience that really engages the consumer and differentiates your product and your brand to maintain as much loyalty as you can from the consumer in that experience? So we're going to talk about this, I think, as we go to the afternoon, and certainly prompt that discussion across the panel and promote a good topic on it. So with that, I'm going to bring up my good friend Maria, who has some great data and insights to back up kind of with common themes that we're seeing in the industry. So Maria, off to you.
Thank you. Which microphone should I use? Here or this one? Okay, can you all hear me well? Yes. So I'm Maria Rua Aguete, Senior Research Director at Omdia. We do lots of analysis, statistics, and I like to come here every year to see you all. So this is my email. In case you want a copy, I will be happy to share it with you. Omdia is a company based in London, and as I said, we do a lot of numbers and statistics. Okay, this is me. I was at the film festival last week in Cannes. As you all know, the Cannes Film Festival is a festival to celebrate the latest movies. So all the directors, all the actors, all the celebrities around the world go to Cannes to present the latest movies. They invite me to speak there, but you could be surprised about the topic. The topic was FAST. So what is a FAST? Are you all familiar with FAST, free advertising supporting services? So everyone was very surprised why at a premium film festival we're talking about free content. What is a service like Pluto TV, who's celebrating 10-year anniversary, is doing at a film festival? So what they were doing there is 43% of people using that platform, they're watching movies. People love free content and people love free movies. So yes, we may all want to go to the cinema to see the latest movie. We all want to see premium content, but library content is equally important and people love to watch it as well. Of all the channels available in Pluto TV, 6 out of those 10 channels, because they have entertainment, drama, comedy, news, everything, 6 out of the 10 were movie channels. So now it became more clear what we were doing there at the film festival. Also becomes clear why everyone around the world is obsessed with this term FAST, why everyone wants to be there. Because in some countries and for some companies, there is in fact a lot of money. And again, some countries, some companies. But for them, there is a lot of money in advertising in the connected TV world and also in FAST. So we have device companies like LG, like Samsung and Roku. We have online platforms like Pluto TV, Rakuten, online channels like Little Dot Studios, IP owners that they have a lot of library, what to do with that content. Premium is a window, but free is another one. And public service broadcasters around the world realize FAST is an opportunity that they don't want to waste. And in this consumer survey we're doing with Ipsos, we found that in some countries, like in the US and in Brazil, these free channels, these free advertising supporting services, they are more popular than pay TV. In the US, yes, they're more popular than even companies like Comcast, or AT&T. People prefer to watch FAST channels. So you can see there the data, 60% of the users, of video users in the US consume FAST versus 55% they consume pay TV. But I think this is a reality that we know what is happening there of cord cutting in the US. But even in Brazil, people use FAST more than they use pay TV. So let's go back to an overview of what is happening in the media and entertainment space. It's going to be this year a 1 trillion industry. And 70% of that 1 trillion globally around the world will come from video, from the world of TV. You can pay and free. 70% of that trillion is video. Games comes very close, followed by music and cinema. And all these little circles, they're all very interrelated. The games world and the video world, they're more related than ever. There is a lot of titles based on IP games. There is a lot of movies being watched inside a game. So the world of gaming and the world of pay TV and video is coming closer than ever. And so is cinema. There are movies released in the cinema and on the same day they're on streaming. And also on the free windows. So those bubbles, they are becoming more related than ever. And a big part of those 70% of revenues come, in fact, from advertising. Companies realize they cannot live just with paid subscription services. They all need advertising. Even the number one operator in the world, the number one streaming video service, Netflix, realized they need extra revenues coming from advertising. That's why we say the future is hybrid. We're not saying there is no potential for growth in the subscription world. Yes, we're expecting 2.2 billion subscriptions to SVOD in 2028. So from now, 2024 to 2028, still 600 million new people will subscribe to SVOD. But again, the number one source of revenue will be online video advertising. Advertising will be the number one by far. That includes AVOD, FAST, social media, YouTube, TikTok, broadcasters, everything advertising related. And video is part of that 326 billion. So what happened in this region, in the Middle East? This region is a bit different to the rest of the world. So in this region, pay TV is still important. So pay TV operators generate more revenues than FAST, than advertising. But it is also advertising, online video advertising there in green, where we see the most potential for growth, 67% in 2028. So there is a very healthy growth in the online video subscription, but we are expecting a lot of growth from advertising. Good news as well in the region. In 2023, the revenues for SVOD surpassed $1 billion. So it's a very healthy market. There is a lot of growth coming from subscription SVOD, and it will be 1.3 in 2024. So again, very positive story of the SVOD subscriptions. Who knows who are the leaders, number one and number two in the region? Shahid may be one. Who is the next one? Shahid is the number one, followed very close by Stars Play. So congrats to both of them, and both of them are here today in the panel discussing the reasons behind this success. Netflix came very close, but is behind Stars Play. There are reasons for this success. They will tell us later how they managed to get there, because they both have different strategies. But again, this is our latest data, and the number one and two players in the region are here with you today. Globally, again, there is a lot of growth coming from free services. This is a survey again with Ipsos, and we ask in pink, how many video services do you watch? And in purple, how many SVOD services? In light blue, pay TV. People don't have more than one pay TV subscription. They have around 2 or 3 SVODs, but they have 6 or 7 free video services. So the reality is the appetite for video is increasing. What is not increasing is the appetite for paying. So they want to watch more, but for less. So do we believe there is money in FAST? Yes, we are predicting 12 billion in 2028, but a big part will come from North America. That's a reality as well. Of that 12 billion, 10.5 will come from North America, 1 billion will come from Western Europe. So what about you here in this region? We're talking about billions, and this region is a bit small, to be honest, right now. It's $7 million. So a bit tiny, but again, the opportunities are huge. When you start low, means there is a lot of work here to do, and there is a lot of potential. So many of you here will be able to make a lot of money with FAST. In purple there you have Western Europe, and Latin America is in pink, and it's another very growth segment. This data may change, so if I'm here next year, the numbers may be better. But as I said, we're expecting 4 times those revenues in the next 5 years. And both the number 1 and 2 SVOD players, they're launching also FAST. This is an example of some of the channels. They have hundreds of them, but meaning that FAST is just another window, it's another way of monetizing content together with the subscription services they have. So this region, the revenues are low, but there is a lot of blocks in place that can make it bigger, higher. We can increase those revenues because there is connectivity, there is internet, there is local content. But they're missing something very important, higher CPMs. When I'm speaking to global players and I was telling them I was going to the region and asking them, do you want to invest or launch in the region? They were not very attracted yet because they think CPMs are really low. The panel will discuss later why they are low and how can we increase them. Also, how we can have more premium content to create an attractive catalog. But new players will come. Samsung announced that they will be in the region very soon, and other local players will be launching here soon. So how big is FAST? We said 12 billion globally in 2028. Is 12 billion a lot of money? Yes, it is. But in context, look at those 12 billion next to TikTok and YouTube. Yes, in many events, they don't want to talk about TikTok and YouTube, but yes, they're there and people want to watch those types of services. So yes, we need to pay attention where the advertisers are going and how much money these two companies are generating. Because maybe people here should join forces to get money that is now going to TikTok, YouTube, and Meta. Did you know that Saudi is the country in the world where they consume more YouTube videos in the whole world? Food for thought. MENA, Middle East, yes, here is very powerful, the revenues and the views in these platforms, in YouTube, in TikTok, and Meta. So the biggest part of growth will come from those segments. Again, this chart may change next year based on things you do to change the market. Finally, we have a panel about advertising, but we have another one about sports. This is a consumer survey, again, we did with Ipsos. This was a couple of years ago. We asked football sports fans, what is your favorite sport or event? We were talking about events as well. And we were very surprised, or not surprised, to see how much people love the Olympic Games. It comes on the top of the most loved events in the world, even above the FIFA World Cup or Cricket World Cup or other events. People love the Olympics. So we're very lucky we have Jorge from the Olympics channel telling us all the secrets behind the Olympic Games. So lucky you have very good people around. Another hot topic, AI. How AI will transform or is already transforming the media landscape, in particular sports. There are so many advantages already taking place thanks to the use of AI. And again, an expert in AI from AWS is coming here. There will be a panelist telling you all the secrets behind this. This is another example of AI in advertising, now with data protection and Google not allowing third-party cookies. How can we advertise better? How can we tailor those people that we want? Again, we will discuss this in the panel. And with this note, thank you very much. And I would like to invite the panelists of the first panel to the stage. Thank you. I want to introduce the panelists, but I think you will do even a better job than I do, introducing yourselves, your role, your company. So I'm going to start with you, Michel. Do you want to tell the audience that probably already know you, who you are, what you do?
Well, thank you for inviting me to start with. My name is Michel Malkoun, and I'm on a daily basis, I run the growth a vertical at Choueiri Group. Choueiri Group is a family-owned business that has 50 years experience in this market. Our offering spans from anything from TV to print to digital and everything that is in between. And as a side job, I'm also the chair of the IB in this region.
Fantastic. Natasha.
Hi everyone, my name is Natasha. I'm the Chief Commercial Marketing and Product Officer at Shahid, which is, as Maria shared with you, the #1 streamer in the Middle East. And we are part of MBC Group, which has obviously been operating in the region for over 30 years.
Fantastic. Thomas?
Hi. So I'm Thomas Bremont. I am the head of international for FreeWheel. So very much like CTS and Peter's description, we are also part of Comcast. And as much as CTS is the internal tech group powering a lot of the Comcast assets across the group, we're the same for advertising. So we help NBC, Comcast Advertising, and a number of other players with their ad tech needs. So that's pretty broad. But generally speaking, we're an ad server, we're programmatic solutions, and we work very closely with a number of groups here in the region, and thrilled to be here as well.
Fantastic. So I think I'm going to start with you, Natasha. As you said, again, you are number one in the region, in the SVOD world.
I'll turn it down a bit.
But you are part of MBC Group, you have a huge library, you have also free content. In my slide, I saw how SVOD is growing, there are lots of revenues, advertising revenues are still really low. What is your strategy regarding business models? What works, what doesn't work in this region? Do people prefer free overpay, vice versa? Give us an overview.
Good question. So Shahid, for those that don't know, we've been running, we actually launched back in 2009 as a catch-up service for TV, so very much fulfilling the AVOD side. And then in 2020, the beginning of 2020, we relaunched the platform with brand new experience, content, strategy, etc., to really drive this notion of paying for content in the region. I think if anything, it's the journey of Shahid is good testament to how MBC has always kind of monitored what's happening and adjusted to the region. So there was obviously a big shift towards SVOD services internationally. So in 2020, we decided to go quite hard in the market with Shahid as a pay service. And we did really well, I think, in growing that kind of behavior in the region. And then last year, beginning of last year, understanding that the shift in advertising revenue more and more towards digital, and obviously us wanting to play a bigger part in that, we relaunched the AVOD experience. And that was quite bold. We shifted 85% of our content from the behind the paywall to free. And what we really proud to observe is that over the last year and a bit, we've actually been able to grow both sides, both AVOD and SVOD really strongly, which I think is quite admirable. I think we're probably one of the few globally that's actually able to do it on both sides so strongly, which is something we're incredibly proud of. And I think the detail around what works, what doesn't work is obviously, the combination or the strategy of what we put behind the paywall and what we leave in front of the paywall. And then there's also variability around the region. There are some markets where an AVOD proposition makes more sense due to affordability, etc. And there's some markets where the users are more sophisticated, they like the ad-free experience, and therefore the SVOD service makes more sense.
Which countries like the 8 bot?
I think broadly we can easily say that kind of North Africa tends to be more favorable towards AVOD, and then of course in GCC you've got more mature kind of behavior, and that tends to be more favorable towards SVOD.
So there are SVOD players very close to you, like Shahid is doing very well, Netflix is doing strong as well. What is your unique selling point? Why will people pay for
That's a great question. So first and foremost, our differentiator is the fact that we have been in the market for so long. So we are, we take the responsibility of being the kind of local storyteller very seriously. We are the biggest provider of premium Arabic content, so that's by far our biggest differentiator. But in terms of pay TV, what also helps us drive that, or pay subscription, what also helps us drive that is the fact that we've got a really good sports proposition. We do carry the RSL in the Middle East, which obviously is a great product for us to carry. We also have very big differentiation around our Shahid originals, which can only be seen behind the paywall. And then we also speak a bit less about it, but we've got a fantastic kids proposition, particularly for the international audiences. It resonates really well. We are, a very safe platform when it comes to families. And so in terms of our appeal to the household, I think we play quite strongly there.
So that's in the pay side. In the advertising, how many fast channels do you have currently? Last week in the UK, Virgin Media said they don't want to have more than 50. 50 will be already too many. How many do you have right now?
That's a great question.
Were you surprised the numbers are so low? What do you think?
That's a great question. So I think we were the first ones to launch fast in 2022. And last year I was here, and I don't know if you remember, I kind of said my gut feel was that it was going to be very complementary, not revolutionary. And it turns out that I was right on that one when it comes to Shahid. I don't know about other players. What we've certainly seen, it's been a really good learning experience for us. We did launch, and at one point we had roughly 60 channels. I think we were the ones that had the most. And over the last few months, we've really gone through a process of kind of rationalizing what makes sense, what is actually really resonating with users, what is monetizable. And so we've actually in our business have seen a slight kind of shrinking, but very strategically so, to make sure that what we are taking to market works for our users and works for us as well.
Quality versus quantity.
Yeah, and I think our users have kind of told us that, right? So some of the channels that you put up there, our Ramadan Mana channel did fantastically well, Movies does fantastically well, and that allows us also to kind of, we've got good consumption happening both on AVOD users and on SVOD users, so it's a really kind of good business that cuts across, and certainly customers, when they are looking for that kind of lean back experience, they still want that to be very rich and personalized, and that's what we've been focusing on.
So after all this, I want to speak to an expert in advertising in the region. Michelle, do you believe in fast? And do you believe in fast in this region?
Yeah, I mean, it's not really up to me to believe or not. I'm a monetization kind of guy, so we follow the eyeballs and we try to monetize where those eyeballs are. But I think, historically, what happens in the Middle East or in MENA, we always at least 5 years behind Europe, and probably Europe is behind the US by another 5 years. So it hasn't caught up yet from clients or advertisers to actually come to us and ask for a fast channel, or where are the opportunities today in fast channel. And I guess what we need to do is to basically highlight more if there are viewership on those channels yet or not. What would be the kind of content strategy behind those? Is it only evergreen content that is recycled? Like how are the channels are promoting these channels properly? There should be some positioning that should happen. So there is a certain narrative in market that is missing totally. And then besides this conference, I don't think we've heard enough fast channel story yet. We're still, I think, struggling to push the CTV in, to be frank with you. So fast is kind of not yet happening.
Not yet, but you believe it will, as I said, 4 times, even 5 times more than it is today.
I think so. So we, like I said, we follow the different markets, and it's just a matter of time before it happens. But there's the speed leverage is in the hands of the stations, of the TV stations, really. And how are they promoting these channels or not? And how are they making those channels accessible? And and how are they differentiating between the free-to-air, the SVOD, the AVOD, and those fast channels?
Very good point, Michelle, because people complain outside the Middle East that the CPMs here are very low. Why we will go to Middle East if they're paying little in this region? Is that true? Can you give, how much are the CPMs? I think I heard sometimes even $3-4 for some content.
Okay.
Give us numbers if you can, please.
So, a short answer is yes, it's lower. And the fact is, it is lower. It's not because there's something wrong with this country or this region or not, but it's rather the consumption of, the viewers. Like you said in your opening, YouTube is the biggest viewed channel in the world. I think even with how much they make money, they're still probably losing on a bandwidth point of view, YouTube. And that's simply because the market, our region is very young. It's highly social. It's highly mobile, and they're big on basically consuming videos. So what that brings, and you're talking to a machine, it's a bidding system. It basically, because you have so much inventory, it lowers the CPM naturally. So it brings the whole market down, and that's not fair, to be frank with you, to the people who are paying millions of dollars to put pieces of content. So that's like a big element of why we have a $4 CPM when it comes to YouTube talking official rates, these rates could go down. And then cents when it comes to TikTok and Meta and these things. So it's extremely difficult in order to basically bring that market up. So that's a good element of why we're struggling. And then it's unfair to people like MBC and the likes to put a $8 million piece of content and that basically gives, yes, the clients are willing to pay premium for that, but not more than probably 100% to what they usually pay. So that's basically what brings everything down. Two, the other fact why the channels, and that's my humble opinion, why they're not able to actually have a specific story to say to the advertisers and the agencies that why do we need to pay a premium for it, is that they don't talk to each other. So they think that they're all going to fight or compete with YouTube alone, independently, but they actually cannot. You're talking with, a company that is embedded with the ecosystem, that basically is in control with all the fine-tuning. The second they see any competition in any market, they just play a little bit with their algorithm, and then they basically kill that competition. So one alone is not enough to actually compete with these, and they have to have a certain story to market that basically bring that value back to these impressions and back to that content. So that's very important. Plus, obviously, the content strategy that needs to exist by talking to each other and then going to the market as one and basically cascading those content from pay to free to whatever.
Very strong points and very important for people to think about how to collaborate if you don't want all the money to end up with TikTok or YouTube or Meta. Collaboration is critical and create a unified story. Thomas, there is a lot of conversation going on already. So after everything you are listening, as FreeWheel, what are the priorities for you? So what are your key focus areas in 2024? Is fast one of the focus areas for you? Social video, what is the topic that are your priorities now?
So a bit like Michel, I mean, we're going where our customers are taking us in a way, but something that Michel said is very important. It's the TV is sort of calling, or TV in the premium video ecosystem is, saying as much as it can, the world is unfair. But yeah, the world is unfair, definitely, right? You have to compete with Google, so it's unfair everywhere. Competing with Google is unfair. For anybody who competes with Google, it's unfair. And so this legal asymmetry, let's be very honest about, in every single market, on a number of things, brings down the CPM for sure, because they don't pay for content, as you said, Michel, as you said, Natasha. So what's their cost base? Nothing. They're completely integrated across the whole vertical ecosystem. They own everything. But one thing which I haven't heard, and I think is important to say, this is where I think TV, or generally speaking, again, I use the word TV alongside premium video just because it's easier. But TV has a perception issue, very clearly. And it's due to the fact that other channels like YouTube are much closer to attribution, right? Who owns the last click before you make a purchase decision? If you're watching TV, it's very hard for me to say, yes, because you're watching a show, you end up going to a car dealer and buying that car. And it's very important, right? It's very important because when an advertiser goes to Michel and says, I want to understand what led that consumer to make that decision. Natasha, it's very hard to say. It's because they were on my platform, that they went onto this website, that they went into this car dealership, or that they went into Carrefour and bought that product. That's the main thing that TV needs to solve. And so when you ask me, Maria, what I see the most right now is that's the one thing TV needs to solve. How do you make people understand that actually the reason why people go search for a product is because they saw an ad for it on a video platform. That probably is Shahid, probably is something else, but YouTube has made that bridge very well. It's become much closer to the end user purchase decision. And so if you're asking me, Maria, what I see the most right now is TV is trying to get to that point. How can I make the world understand that I am the most efficient marketing machine?
Which brings me back to you, Michel. When you speak to advertisers, do you have like two separate markets between what is premium video and social video? Do you think there is enough premium video to offer to your advertisers? Is there enough supply and demand? What is more the demand or the supply? Tell us a bit more about.
So, I mean, there's definitely a lot of content out there, premium content that needs to be surfaced in a way that is, discoverable in on so many different devices, and very much like what YouTube were able to, or TikTok for that matter, that we're able to do, and that is in addition to what Thomas said. There's a handicap there. To the advertiser, so if you asked if they're able to differentiate between social and premium,
yes,
and so there are two ways to look at this. So a bunch of clients who basically only care about results and ROI, and they don't care about where that impression is served, and it's just eyeballs.
They don't have separate budgets. They just have an amount of money.
Exactly, and that amount of money is displayed or given or weighted based on the results that they want to achieve. So and the other fact that is skew things to more social, because our market, if you look at our total spend of $5.5 billion in this market, 85% or 90% goes to social display and social video, and so so the advertiser is basically empowered by or driven by a procurement guy, unfortunately, or person.
Yeah.
And that procurement person does not understand, they're buying soaps as much as they're buying impressions. So they're by no way to be able to differentiate between why are you Mr. Brand Manager, who, by the way, they do appreciate affinity, they do appreciate premium content. Why, Mr., do you want to put a $25 CPM on this show while I can buy it for less than $4 everywhere else? So there is that. So the bulk of the money is going through the cheapest, unfortunately, and only few clients like luxury, very specific sectors do appreciate premium content, and they're willing to pay premium for it.
So Natasha wants to say something.
I honestly disagree slightly.
Okay.
I think the CPM conversation, for sure, it's driven down. The average is driven down by social. I think it's much more useful to potentially look at ranges, and I do think that it's a more balanced. It needs to be a more balanced conversation, and I completely understand, Thomas, what your perspective is. And advertisers are obviously, everyone's being squeezed, so they're looking for performance. I think, though, at the same time, there's been enough studies done to substantiate the point that there is an element of brand building that is not necessarily always trackable, but that businesses understand is needed. And I think that by definition means that there'll always have to be some kind of TV mix and premium content mix. Also because users are coming to, for example, MBC or Shahid as a platform with a different purpose than they do on social media, different attention span, different engagement with brands. And I don't think that is completely discounted by advertisers.
No, I think I agree with you on that point. But so they're definitely they can see that. But the what we're looking at, the differential is enormous, and they're putting a lot of negative pressure on it. If you want to go and say I want a $25 CPM on this piece, on that inventory, you will be challenged, unfortunately.
People in the audience,
so
feel
I'm
free
with you
to
on that note, but
interact. No, because it's very interesting, and I can see disagreements, which I love. People, if anyone wants to put a comment or hands up or say something about the topic, don't be shy. Put your hand up and I will give you a microphone, because there's different views, it is great. But if CPMs are low, that is the average consumption about what is happening here, what are the other ways to monetize that content? We speak a lot about branded content, for example, Rakuten, that is one of the leaders in free content, a free fast platform. They put an example the other day about this documentary about Severiano Ballesteros. I think it cost 10 million. It costs a lot of money still to produce content, even if it's free. And 50% was sponsored by Rolex, the other 50% by them. And then they create these great documentaries about the best golfer, Spanish guy. Is branded content something working here in this region? Do you see those kind of relationships going, Michelle?
Yeah, we do. I can answer that.
Okay.
Yeah, we do see. I think there are certainly advertisers that are quite bullish, and so we're starting to see that emerge quite a lot. So partnered content, sponsored content, brand integrations, all of that are avenues that are growing quite strongly because advertisers do see the value of still being connected to premium content. And so I think we'll start seeing a lot more of that, which takes us out of the space of competing with the very low social media CPMs.
Do you have an example of a brand who approached you to do a piece of content?
We've got a few. If you go onto our platform, you'll be able to see it.
I wanted to come back on one of the things. Brand content is I think, a very specific area of a broader topic, which is globalization of media buying, right? Which is for this region, but also for Europe. I see it. They see it less in the US because, generally speaking, the US and global are interchangeable terms. But if you are a brand today, right, most of your purchasing decision happens, globally speaking. You're negotiating these rights with agencies, and then there's a global budget that is put together. Then once that global budget is spent, then it comes down to the region, comes down to this region, to France, to the UK. But the portion that's decided globally in New York or in London by WPP planning gets bigger. And the problem for each one of the regions that come after is that, the portion that gets decided in New York or in London, used to be 10%, is now 15, 20%. And what does the planner know? When they're in New York, they sit at their desk on Madison Avenue, wherever. They don't know. I mean, maybe they know Shahid.
Let's hope.
But the point is, everyone has to do their job at a very different level than competing locally. And who do you compete with globally? Meta, YouTube, and those have 25 million people every day at the agencies roaming around the corridors. Yeah. I don't know that you have anybody in New York roaming the corridors, but the likelihood that a local big player, and I'm hearing this from everybody, whether it's TF1 or Channel 4, has the same problem, which is that the budgets are becoming more and more globally decided on the basis of global purchasing agreements. So when it comes down to the local market, that you have to become either much more innovative and create these very special engagement experiments, or you have to compete on price. And either way, I mean, it's a time-consuming, money-consuming effort to gain the same revenue.
Michel, do you agree? It's becoming a problem. Global advertisers want to spend.
Yeah, definitely. Thomas has a point there, and it's big time decided on the media split there. But locally, I think you can always, if you have the right content, you can always make a dent and do something. So going back to the point of sponsorship and branded content, definitely that's the only way to one of the ways that you can actually get out of that conversation, which happens on a daily basis, and then create a nice incremental revenue, or actually increase those revenues to your channel for sure.
So putting all these things together and speaking about some of the challenges, discovering content, because there is a lot of free and paid content available, how to find the right content, how to monetize, advertising, what will be the role of AI? There is already around the world lots of AI applications in advertising, in sports, content discoverability. And in fact, Natasha, a few months ago you were in London in our Omdia event, and you announced that you were the first pay TV operator in the world with an AI tool to find that content. Tell us a bit more about your AI applications.
Yeah, we were the first, but that didn't last very long because, of course, AI is advancing at a fast rate. So the amount of development that's happening is insane. But look, I think it's going to be very important. We use a lot, there's a lot of areas in the business that we are experimenting a lot more with AI. I mean, we've used it for a while in all of our data modeling. That's by far one of the things that I think differentiates us in the market is the fact that we really understand our user behavior, and we've got a lot of data to help guide our decision making. And we've expanded into thinking about how can we use AI to enrich the user experience, to bring the users closer to the content and to finding the content that they love. We're also using AI quite a lot in our subtitling. We subtitle now in about 30 languages to help make sure that our content can travel even further and that users can, enjoy it in the language of their choice. So there's a lot of developments that are happening, and I think that the next few years is going to be really interesting to see how AI changes the course of what we're doing. There's a lot of talk around how it's going to change content production. I still think that you need a very strong human creative element in that space. I'm probably happy to be wrong, but I'm a bit less intimidated by what's happening there. I think that as a business, in terms of efficiency, data, understanding your user, making the user experience far richer, I think that there's a lot that's going to happen in that space, and that's quite exciting.
Very good question. There was a topic at the film festival, AI. So be honest here in the audience. If there is a fantastic movie, and I'm telling you, it has been all full generated by AI, would you watch that content or not? Who said yes? Hands up.
Yeah, I would watch it. Yeah, why not? Yeah.
No, because many people were saying no in the film festival, like creatives were like, who will ever
your
want to
audience
watch?
might have been the issue there.
No, but it's good that, again, different people think different ways, but there are some channels, like TCL in China, for example, already creating 24-hour channels fully generated by fast. I can hear a noise. Someone didn't like the comment. Okay. So yes, there's already channels created completely.
Fully by AI?
Yes, TCL. I think still in content creation, you are right, the creative person and the guidance will still be important. But yes, there is already content. But going back to advertising, we have AWS later talking about it, but there are lots of, again, monetizing content. Now, who owns the data? What can we do with that data? With AI, someone who in a movie is drinking this bottle of water, it can be replaced in real time by different. So how do you see the opportunities develop with AI, Michel?
The low-hanging fruit is the branded content that we talked about. You can today go back to your library and then change the whole product placement, stories.
That's huge.
And then that could be embedded with in the AI, I think our friends at Comcast have a couple of solutions around that. Basically, that basically allow you that the AI understands the story of the movie or the series and basically can put these branded or this product placement in context to the story. So I think that's amazing.
From a user experience perspective, yeah, that's huge.
So at least, that's a low-hanging fruit. But from a technology point of view, and we're all talking about the cookie deprecation,
yes.
And so I think the AI, if will basically be able to sort that one out and then create a nice, what is the story after cookies is going to be basically fueled by a kind of a technology that brings, that can understand the flow of the bid flow of what's going on from an ad serving point of view, where the stories are, and then from another angle, from a context point of view, what are now that we have some sort of a strong affinity between a cohort and another, what does that mean contextually if we put that layer, and then the AI can basically create all sorts of data segments that are relevant and in market that basically help the advertiser become more on point from a targeting point of view, and most likely going back to Thomas' point, they hopefully can, and I'm probably I could be wrong there, but hopefully can give the right attribution to where these where you know who made the most effect out of these different cohorts.
Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, this is where I think one area where TV or the traditional media might actually surprisingly have an advantage, because context is something that's very hard to manage. For an advertiser, there's nothing worse than finding your ad next to context where you don't want to be, right? Think about news, think about the branded sports opportunity, you're sponsoring the wrong team in front of, there's plenty of examples. YouTube's very often in the press around, this content appeared in front of 10-year-old kids, whatever. And, if you look at traditional media, there's a ton of information that's been stored. And some of the things that, yes, at Comcast we're working is around the video AI product is making sure that the metadata that has been created over all the years in the history of this content is used for the appropriate context. And that's, pretty important, because on user-generated content, yes, it might be free, but then if I'm creating content, I'm free to put whatever metadata that is probably not associated with content, but making sure that it's not going to be blocked by the algorithm of YouTube when it presents itself in front of the user. Yes, it's verified, etc., but that could be problematic. So that's a very definite area where, frankly, with the right information ahead of time, you can create a much better user experience. And then one of the biggest issues, if you're a publisher, is knowing what you have to sell, right? Because particularly, we'll talk about sports in a minute. Sports is the hardest thing to predict in the world when you're trying to sell ads. If you're in the linear business, well, it's easy. You don't have a choice. You put an ad and then hopefully people watch your content. But if you're doing this in a digital environment, one person watching equals one experience. Therefore, it needs to be tailored, and you have to forecast how many ads you put that. And AI, frankly, is very strong at doing that, much better than anything that we've seen in the past, which is, can you tell me, based on the history of whether it's a cricket game, where it's going to take place, the time of year, help me forecast how many users I'm going to have watching that on an iPhone, on an Android. That is extremely hard to do if you have no historical data. But AI could do that across, other use cases in other regions, and, based on the shows that you're putting in front of them, might do a better job at predicted. Therefore, your return on investment is going to be better with these models. So that's one area where I'm very hopeful.
And going back to this and who owns the data, we've seen in one slide hardware companies really active in this space: LG, Roku, Vizio, Samsung. These companies, they don't make money anymore selling TVs. Sometimes they're even losing money, but they want to be in the homes. They want to have that data. And then when retailers they want to buy also those smart TV companies, then it's a win-win. They have the smart TV, they know who's watching, and they can sell what they have. I know Amazon is already in this region. Recently they came, so it will be a win-win for them as well. But how important, for example, Samsung announced they're coming as well in June. Are all these good news for advertisers in this region? Is this something that should make locals nervous? Is an opportunity? How do you see this, Michel?
I mean, I think the more players, the merrier, and I think this is good for our industry and for our ecosystem. So, Samsung coming in and then LG launched a couple of years ago. It's all good because they're suddenly raising the CTV story in market. Now, what needs to happen? And I think that's a global issue, is where they need to bring down those walls so we can, so they can basically service the advertiser in the right way. And so far, they're not. Each one of them basically is controlling that environment, and it's and that's not fun, to be frank with you, to manage all that.
We certainly at the beginning, I would agree. I mean, obviously, as a platform, we eyeing that quite carefully. And you're right. I think there'll need to be, the whole like norming, storming, etc. So I do agree. I think that it's probably quite painful at the moment for everyone involved because they want to own the relationship with the user. Although they need, advertisers to come along, they need content to come along, so they need to try and make it all work. I think it will get better over time because it has to, because all of us having our walls up is not. It's only going to serve us up until so far. So it'll be interesting to see how the space evolves.
We have 1 minute and a half left, so don't miss the opportunity to ask a question to these fantastic panelists. Yes, we have. If you can say your name and your company.
Natasha, I have a question for you. Would you expect the same CPM on the CTV than on the mobile, or you would expect the CPM to be higher? And Michel would be willing to provide whatever Natasha is asking.
That's an interesting question. I think it's early days. Because of the difference in experience, I suppose it's not difficult to assume that it would potentially be different. But I think it's early days to comment on that.
And at the moment, because there's a scarcity in CTV inventory, the prices are high. But obviously, like anything else that we've seen, they will come down. The challenge of keeping those prices up is how do we basically be able to connect the customer journey in all of that, so we can basically understand what is the effect of CTV to the overall equation, how are they moving from TV to somewhere else, and so I think that needs a lot of work to do in order for it to happen, but also, which we don't have today, is that collaboration, conversations, and people talking, and be able to trust each other to a certain extent in order to be able to build something that the advertiser can benefit from. And until then, we're going to keep doing what we're doing.
I think we have time for just very quick question, 10 seconds. If not, you can speak to them after the break. And just to finalize, I spoke about the film festival, about FAST, I spoke about AI. Another super hot trend in France was content from Saudi. So all the big publications at the event, Hollywood Reporter, Variety, they were all sponsored by Saudi and by the new city Neom, and they create a new term, Saudi Good. So we have Hollywood, Nollywood, Bollywood. The new big term is Saudi Good. And they said the next big hit will come from Saudi.
It's not surprising. I mean, we had a fantastic hit early on in the year, Tanawiyat al-Nasim School, which did incredibly well, and the quality of storytelling and production is just getting better and better in Saudi, so I'm not surprised to.
So yes,
to
this is
that.
the place to be, basically, Middle East. So congrats, thank you very much for your success, and feel free to ask them questions now on the break. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.